Okay, gentlemen, what is up? Let's do this quick playoff scenario preview for Next Man Up 2020 season. Getting down to the nitty gritty, week 16. We'll start off in the AFC, where we have the New England Patriots clinched the first seed and home field advantage throughout those playoffs. Still a little bit to play for here in the NFC. The Eagles clinch either with a win. I believe actually they've pretty much clinched, but they can clinch with a win or a Chicago loss, which the Eagles should get because they have on the Cowboys who are on auto, and then the Washington football team who may be in let me just lose a game here for draft position mode in by the time that comes around. So as of right now, it looks like the Eagles will be the one seed in the NFC and the Patriots the one seed in the AFC. The Chiefs now basically looking back to the AFC, and this is where I'll stay. I'll try not to jump back and forth. Let me just focus on one conference, and then we'll go from there. So the Chiefs look to be the two seed. Here we go. And here's why. So last night, the Chargers and the Broncos played. Broncos lost in a heartbreaking fashion, almost finished the comeback, but got down to about the 30-yard line. It was third and inches, ran Melvin Gordon up the middle to try to get the first down and spike it. He did not get the first down, so it was fourth and inches. Lined up to spike. Obviously couldn't spike. Went to do a fake spike. Goes to throw the ball and pump fakes. He would not throw the ball. Drew Lock, once again, is a jackass. But that's where we are. So the Chiefs have the Falcons left, and then the Chargers, who again they played it hard last night against me. So I would imagine he's going to play out the string. Falcons may not be playing out the string because at 6-8 you can't make the playoffs. So why not just get yourself a little bit of a more advantageous draft position at that point? So you got to think the Chiefs are essentially a lock at the 2 seed. Now here's where it gets kind of interesting because it looks at first blush that the Colts are pretty much locked in to the 3 seed. But not so fast, my friends. Let's go to the standings, and we'll do by division. So here we go. If you look at this here, the Colts have the Jags week 17. So this week 16 matchup does not even matter for the Colts. The Colts and Jags play week 17, so that can decide the division. However, the Jaguars have a rough go of it these next 2 weeks. They have the Bears, who are 11-3, and then, as we mentioned, that Colts matchup in Week 17. If the Bears lose this week 6, or if the Bears win this Week 16 matchup against the Jags, there's a whole lot of scenarios that we'll get into in a second for the Jags. But let's focus on the Colts here. The Colts basically just have to win their Week 17 matchup against the Jags because they did win their matchup earlier in the year. And I'll show you why if they win Week 16, then Week 17 matters even less. So they do have a tough Steelers team. Again, NJ Devil has played quite a few tight games, just hasn't been able to get over the hump. At 5-9, you have to imagine, again, he's in that mode where he doesn't really care whether he wins or loses. So the Colts at 9-5, got to think they're going to go 10-5 after this week. Even if they don't, though, they've already beaten the Jags once, so that Week 17 matchup then comes into play. I'll show you why it may not even come into play here, and that's because the division record, right? So if the Colts wins Week 16, which is the week we're in right now, if Colts beat Steelers, he essentially clinches the division because the worst he can go in division is 4-2. He'll have split with the Jags, so he'll have the tiebreaker. Colts needs to win one of his last 2 games, whether it's against the Steelers, whether against the Jags. Obviously, you want to win all your division games and keep a division opponent out of the playoffs, so that might be a little bit of a sweet victory for him Week 17. But if the Colts beats the Steelers in Week 16, he has clinched the AFC South and essentially the 3rd seed. But he's only 1 game ahead of the Bengals, who actually right now are in a tight race for their division. However, that could all come crashing down on the Browns because they're 7-7. Bengals are 8-6. However, if we go again to the Bengals schedule here, we will see that they have basically beat the Browns once and twice, so they hold tiebreaker. And here's where it gets real sketchy for the Browns. Pull this up. Let's go up top so I don't have to back out. If you look right here, we have Jets, Cleveland. Jets are one of the better users in the league. They're sitting currently, I think, at 10-4, and then the Browns at 7-7. So that's going to be a tough road to hoe for the Browns. The Browns have to win out and hope that the Bengals lose both of their games. I don't see that happening. The Bengals have, let's see what they have left. Could it happen? Certainly. Stranger things have happened. but I don't think it's going to happen. The Bengals have the Texans and then the Ravens, who's been fairly hit and miss whether he plays games. When he plays games, he's good. He's got Lamar. It's not a fun game to play, but he's been busy for whatever reason this season and has not been able to play a ton of his games. So you got to think the Bengals will be able to potentially get to 10-6 and keep some pressure on the Colts there for that division. So if we kind of just hash it out, we got Patriots with the 1 seed, Chiefs with the 2, Bengals and Colts are likely going to win their divisions at 3 and 4. So let's go to the conference view here and see what would happen if you got to realize that look, the Jets are not winning their division. I'm not winning my division. So although we're ranked 2 and 4 here, it's not going to pan out like that when the seeding comes out. Conference wins are another big issue. So 7 and 3, 7 and 3. This 3 and 4 seed is going to be big. So the 4 plays the 5 and the 3 plays the 6. As things stand right now, it looks pretty much like the Jets will be the 5 and the Broncos will be the 6. Unless crazy things happen. I mean, I could lose out, the Jags could win out, it could get really weird. But for the most part, it looks like the Jets are going to be the 5, Broncos are going to be the 6. So the way the new playoff format goes is 1 gets a bye, 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. You have to imagine that these guys would much rather play me than Steph. Either way, they're going to have a home game. I think, me personally, I'd rather play the Colts indoors because if you go to Cincy, you might get some snow, and playing that running attack in the snow will not be fun. So I will be hoping that the Colts stay in the 3rd seed so I can play indoors. I'm not saying that I'll win the game, but at least it won't be as determined by outside factors. It'll just be who had the better game that week. Whereas if you go to Cincy and you get a snow game, same thing with Kansas City, they could get a snow game, and that could really hamper their long passing game. Although he seems to be hinting that he's going to go back to a more conservative play style in the playoffs. We shall see when we get there. So here's where it gets interesting for this 7 seed right here, because right now the Jags have it, but as you see, they're only 1 game up on the Browns and the Raiders, and the Chargers there with that win against me have given themselves at least a shot. And I showed you the Jags schedule earlier, and this is why it can get really tricky for them. So if the Jags lose to the Bears, that puts them at 8 and 7, and then they have that showdown, like we said, with the Colts. So if the Raiders win out, look at their schedule, they have, I believe, the Dolphins and then the Broncos. So the Dolphins at 2 and 12 have almost completed the tank, right? The Raiders are 7 and 7. You got to think that they're going to win there. I know Tank, not the Dolphins' plan for the season, but the user does like to spoil things for people. So I would imagine he's going to play. He'll probably wait till 11 o'clock Sunday night to play because he's a fucking jackass. But we got the Raiders, we got the Dolphins. If the Raiders can get by, they're 8 and 7. We have both of those teams sitting at 8 and 7. Again, this is assuming that the Bears beat the Jags, and we would have quite a little showdown here, and I'll show you why. Let's go into the conference standings mode, and it's all based on this conference standings right here, right? So the Jags are only 5 and 6 in the AFC matchups they've played. The Raiders, if they win out, would get to 7 and 5. So they would have the advantage, whereas the Jags can only get to 6 and 6. So if the Raiders win out, Jags go 1 and 1, the Raiders are going to get that 7th seed over the Jaguars. So it is not over yet by any stretch of the imagination. The Browns in the standings look like they have more of a shot. I would imagine this Jets game pretty much eliminates them from contention, and then we're just looking at the Raiders and the Jags. So these next 2 games are huge for the Raiders. They have to win out to get in, and the Jaguars have to go 1 and 1, which is not out of the realm of possibility. A. Smith has been able to put up big numbers with DJ Chark and company. However, the record has not been great for him because that Jags roster is just not where it needs to be yet. Now, in a second, I'll show you why it's going to be where it needs to be, and the rest of the AFC should be put on notice for this Jags team and, unfortunately, this Jets team. So right now, as it stands, I would say the Patriots are going to be the one, not that it's a question. The Patriots are going to be the one. Chiefs are most likely going to be the 2. Probably looking at the Colts with the 3, Bengals at the 4, Jets 5, Broncos 6, and then Jags and Raiders for that 7 seed. I don't know who Syndicate would rather play, but I could actually hold his destiny in my hands. If I look, I play every game to win, so I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to go into Week 17 and lose on purpose so the Raiders get in. Raiders and I played a really tight game earlier in the year, so I would imagine he's going to want to beat me to get some revenge there, and I'm not going to act like I would quote unquote let him in and let him into the playoffs. But it would be funny that I would hold the Chiefs' kind of fate in my hands. If he'd rather play the Jags, I could really play hard against the Raiders and try to keep them out, or if he'd rather play the Raiders, I could, flip the script and kind of let the Raiders in. We'll see how that goes. Hint, I'm not going to let the Raiders in. I'm going to play my ass off Week 17. I hate losing games in Madden, especially coming off a game where I had a game-winning field goal lined up and I fucking blew it because I'm an idiot. All right, let's go to the NFC. The NFC, look, I don't want to talk shit here, but the NFC kind of had a weird season. So they had some guys play who got out to big leads in their divisions, and then they ghosted. So Shiv with the Panthers, he got busy and he got out to a huge lead in his division. So he's going to be a computer controlled team. The Cowboys said he's going on hiatus the rest of the season. I think if he makes the playoffs, he'll come back. Cooler heads usually end up prevailing with him. I don't know. I can't say for a fact, but cooler heads usually end up prevailing with him. Sosa, I think that's his name in the Discord. It's like Flank and Ruck or something like that on Madden, has been MIA. So I'm hoping both of these guys come back and we only end up with one CPU team in the playoffs, but it's looking like we could have as many as two CPU teams in the playoffs because the Cowboys have all but clinched, unless, of course, something happens out west. So let's see what's going on here in the NFC. All right, so as we talked about, here we go. We're going to go. Eagles have all but clinched. Like I said, they just have to win one of their last two games, and they should be able to do that because I don't think cooler heads are going to prevail yet for the Cowboys, so he'll probably sit out. But if he realizes he made the playoffs, I would hope he'll come back. The reason Cowboys is basically in is because he holds the tiebreaker over the Redskins. So he won both of their games, so he'll always be ahead of them in the division, therefore always be ahead of them in the conference. So that's why it's like, wait a minute, Washington has a chance, but they unfortunately do not because they can't get ahead of Cowboys in the division. Let's look at this CPU Cardinals schedule going forward. They've got the Niners and then the Rams, which is another CPU team. So you got to imagine that the Cardinals will probably win that CPU sim because the Rams are friggin' 2-12, and the Niners hopefully can beat them to put them to 9-7 as well, which would then give them another conference loss that would put the Cardinals at 7-4. So it's actually going to be close if the boys lose out and then the Cardinals, we might have to set a forced loss there that last week. I know it would be pretty controversial because the Jags owns the Rams pick, so that would, I know he would not want them to get the forced win, but I think for the state of the league to not have two computer teams in the NFC playoffs would be the best case scenario there. But again, that's just the health of the league. I understand why A. Smith and the Jags would have some, reservations, just putting a force win just to kind of set the playoffs how we want it. So the Eagles, again, likely going to be the one seed. They just have to win one of their last two games. The Packers played really well. I think Jordan Love will be back for the playoffs. He's gotten in some trouble for stat padding in the past and going after dev traits. Look, we all do it. He just, for whatever reason, can't hide it as well as the rest of us. He is borderline pathetic at hiding it. Last season, he was calling timeouts when he was on defense to try to get guys sacks. And then this season, I didn't see the game, but he was apparently calling timeouts, throwing 4 verts to try to get Jordan Love stats. It's just like, look, we get it. We all want to dev guys up. We all want Rookie of the Year. We all want to get our guys as highly rated as possible. But at the same time, you got to be a little bit better at hiding it. Maybe let the computer score a little more on defense. Do some like all-out blitzes, something. It's my advice. Let the computer score. Let your opponent score. Then the game looks closer, and then you won't get yelled at. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So it looks like he's going to be the 2. The Bears are right there as well. Look, this division or this conference is top heavy. You've got the Eagles, you've got the Packers, you've got the Bears. The Giants have looked really, really good this year as well. So I don't want to say like the NFC's bad because they have a couple CPU teams going into the playoffs, but it's just one of those where it lined up like the way the schedules lined up that it just was funky because guys who got out to big leads in the beginning of the season ended up having to leave. So Bears, let's see if they can take the 2 from the Packers. Their schedule left is they've got Jags, Packers. So that's going to be a huge, huge game there. So they're not going to be able to obviously get if they don't get the whoever doesn't get the 2 here. So the Packers and Bears, whoever doesn't get the 2 here will then get the 5 because they're going to be by far the highest rated wild card team. So this is a division that's going to come down to the wire. Let's check that. Let me do one thing first before I go too crazy. Schedule. Who won their first matchup? The Bears won their first matchup, so that bodes well for him potentially stealing this division late in the year. So let's see here, division. So in theory, this Bears Week 16 matchup against the Jags, while it looks like it matters a lot to him, it does not. Because he's already beaten the Packers, so he can lose this game, go to 11-4. Packers are sitting at 12-3, and then if Bears beats Packers Week 17, he's 12-4. Packers are 12-4, and now all of a sudden the Bears have the double, the double header win, whatever you want to call it, the season sweep, and now Bears is the NFC North winner. So this Week 16 game, while it looks great on paper against the Jags, and it should be a fun one to watch, it matters way less to the Bears than it does to the Jags, and that's something to keep in mind as we're watching it. Will Bears kind of, rest some guys and just hold them back for Week 17 because he knows that that's the only game that matters because he can even beat the Jags, go to 12-3, and then if he loses to the Packers, he's losing the division anyway. So it's really just a matter of this Week 17 game. This Week 16 game is completely inconsequential to the Bears the more we look at it. So if I had to put my money on who's going to win that division, I did not watch their first game, but just based on the score, you got to think that Bears has the advantage. 45-17 is convincing. Look, we've all gotten in games where it just got away from us. I just got beat 70-20 because you get behind and you have to start hucking the ball up, and then you get some interceptions, some pick sixes, and there's no chance of you coming back. Do I think Chiefs is 50 points better than me? No, but is it obvious that can happen in a game? Yes. So I would say that Bears is probably the favorite for the North, so let's put him down as the 2 seed for now. So we're thinking we're going to go Eagles, Bears, and then we got the Niners, who has been on a tear lately. He's got a lot of computer opponents, and he just runs the hell out of the ball to the point where I think Mostert is suspended. I don't know if he's suspended through the playoffs or just the regular season, but he does run the hell out of the ball. He hasn't missed a beat with Tevin Coleman. I think he put up like 300 yards and 5 touchdowns, whatever it was. So he's locked in to the 3 because you got to imagine this Panthers team is going to lose a few games here. Again, it just depends on what's going to happen here. I don't know if Washington is going to want to play and get to 8-7, or realize that the season's over and just take the forced loss and go to 7-9. That's one of the benefits of playing against computer. Like late in the season, you can take a forced L. It's kind of your choice at that point. I just went to the Discord on accident. But you can take that force L, to my knowledge anyway. There's no rule against it. If you'd rather take the force L than the force dub against a computer, that's one of the benefits of playing the computer. So we'll see what he does, but you have to imagine that this Panthers squad will not be able to challenge the Niners based on the fact that they are computer controlled and the Niners are going to win. So it's looking like it's going to go Eagles with the bye, Bears at the 2, Niners at the 3, Panthers at the 4, and then whoever loses that Bears Packers game in Week 17 will be the 5 seed. Right now it's Packers, and I think it'll stay that way. We then would come to the Giants and the Cowboys. Who's going to be ahead in the NFC East? Because wherever they rank in the NFC East is where they're going to rank in the conference. Right now it looks like the Giants will stay ahead because, as we've said multiple times, Cowboys has gone away for the season. Who do the Giants have left, though? The Giants have the Ravens again, who you never know. He's MIA. And then if Cowboys wants to come back, so Cowboys ends with Eagles, Giants. It's really a shitty time for him to step away and kind of, a shitty thing to do because you were upset with some of the animations. But look, people are busy. I know that he had a lot of things going on in his real life with school and everything. His school, anyway. He's not in school anymore. Me and him are 2 of the elder statesmen in the league. But everyone's got things going on. But you would have to imagine, I think he could get coaxed to come back when cooler heads prevail. But it's looking like it's going to go Packers, Bears in this 5 seed. I would imagine it's going to be Packers. And then you're going to go Giants, Cowboys. So if all things go as they will, it looks like it's going to be Bears versus Cowboys in the wild card. Niners will then get the Giants, and then you'll have Packers against the Panthers. And I can just say, Romy, be careful. Do not get yourself in trouble for stat padding in the wild card round. You don't want to end up having Jordan Love suspended for the divisional because you were a doofus. So that wraps that up. We'll come back once the playoffs are set. I will try to do a playoff preview, and I'll make some predictions and piss some people off. Why didn't you pick me to win the Super Bowl? I won it last year. Ugh. So we can do that another day. But for now, we'll end this. Have a great weekend.